Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins, and I'm here with my lovely wife, Dr. Alicia. How you doing today, babe?
I'm doing well this morning. The story is pretty sad. Pretty
Yeah,
sad story, but how are you doing?
oh, doing good. Yeah, the
Hmm.
story is very sad. It's story about a entrepreneur couple in Atlanta that or had just moved to Atlanta that unfortunately were hit with a horrible murder suicide, which these things have happened, and it's tragic when it does.
Yeah, I mean, they had 8 children between the two of them. I
Mm.
don't think they had children together, but I mean, these are 8 children with no parent at this point.
Yeah. It's kind of terrible. It's I hope we're not depressing anybody today. Um, it's kind of
It's a cheery Sunday morning.
I know, right, right. Well, here we are messing up everybody's Sunday morning, but I think there's a lot of lessons to be picked up from this. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna read some of this story to you guys, and I want to first of all say hello to Not Playing and Sincere Jewel and Mafoon Benjamin. Love you all the way from Haiti. We love you too. True Fist of the North Star and Too Smooth. Too Smooth says stick to finance. Well, you stick to working at UPS or whatever you do for a living, and then we'll talk. Anyway, I'm being silly. Elian Jones, good morning to you. Clarity Jones, wake up, doc. I am. You know what? We do pillow talk literally on our pillows, so that's why I sound like I got that morning groggy voice. Everybody, put your B1 in the chat. Shout out what city you're from, I'm gonna read some of this. Let me give me a yes or no. Also, can you hear me now? I'm switching screens because I'm gonna read some of this story to you, so we can get the backdrop of what happened here. And my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, is a couples counselor, relationship therapist, and so I thought this would be an interesting topic to kind of get her perspective on. So it says here, according to the Atlanta Journal Constitution, a husband and wife who had recently moved to Atlanta to expand their businesses were found dead in an apparent murder suicide earlier this month. Shortly before 9 p.m. on November 6th, Keianna Burns, 44, shot and killed her husband, 46-year-old Ronnell Burns, before turning the gun on herself, according to Sergeant Salvador Ortega with Sandy Springs Police. No one else was in the home at the time of the shootings. The couple founded For His Glory Ministries and Critique Designs Beauty and Barber Salon in their hometown of St. Louis. Before moving earlier this year, Keianna said in a Facebook video in October, "Right now, my husband is at a retreat. I stayed back because we have children here." She said, "However, I just hopped on here because you have to be prepared for life changes no matter what is taking place. I'm trying to encourage someone because things in your life can change for the good or the bad overnight, literally. And if you don't feel like you are a strong enough individual, some things may take you out." So it sounds like Kiana was crying for help right before this whole thing happened. What are your thoughts on that, babe? You and I watched that video this morning. We watched the entirety. I would have played some of it here, but for some reason I couldn't get the technology down to load the video in. But what were your thoughts when you kind of saw? Like, did you see anything like in her communication style or body language that would have triggered anything? Any alerts internally for you, just as a therapist?
Yeah, man, I think that well, first of all, she wasn't very detailed about what exactly happened between them. She said in the moment things can change, good or bad, just in the moment. So I got the impression that maybe she found something out in a moment that was like devastating to her.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe at times she found out something that was really uplifting. So in a moment, it's almost like she found information that was troubling. Look at her eyes in that photo. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that is pure sadness in her eyes.
Yeah, like frustration. Like,
It,
I'm sick of this man. Like, I've seen that look in women's
has
eyes before.
anybody given you that look before?
Well, it's kind of like the
Like,
exhausted
I'm
look.
done with you. This is it. This is
Yeah, like
over.
like this is like I just can't take this no more. That kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that she went to Facebook for encouragement. Where's the encouragement in her real life
Mm.
that she
So you
didn't?
feel like she went to Facebook because maybe in her 3D life she didn't have
Her
the
3D
support
life.
she needed from other people.
Yeah, I mean, it would be. it would be interesting. She talked about not having a support system right there in Atlanta because they just moved and she felt pretty sounded like she felt pretty isolated.
Mm.
But if she went to Facebook, it seemed like she could call somebody,
Mm.
and reach out to someone. And of course, definitely reach out to a professional.
Mm.
Instead, it seemed like her only retreat was to go to her prayer room. Remember, she talked about her prayer room.
Mm-hmm.
She's going to go up there and talk to God and ask God for help. I mean, that's always helpful. But I wonder if maybe she needed to talk to a professional. Clearly, she needed to talk to a professional.
Well, it looks like they've had some happier days, and it wasn't always this bad.
No,
You
it's
know, it.
never always that bad. Like on day one at the first date, you're gonna put your best foot forward. So, especially at the beginning,
Interesting.
it's that face, that second face
Well, I'm gonna
that
read
she had
more.
that's very interesting.
Well, I'm gonna read more. And by the way, if you just came in, you're watching Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia. You can subscribe if you go to boyceandaliciatv.com. Feel free to do that. Dr. Alicia is a couples counselor, and I'm a professor of finance. And we realized that we have a lot of interesting conversations in bed laying against our pillow. So we said, why don't we just kind of bring other people in on the conversation? So this is kind of where Pillow Talk came from. So we're talking about Keianna Burns and her husband Ronnell. And Keianna, according to the police, according to the Atlanta Journal Constitution, it appears that Keianna shot Ronnell and then killed herself. It also says during the video, Burns said the move had been difficult for the couple and their children. The two have 8 children between them. Burns indicated she was struggling with her mental health. Quote, like real talk, I have some very positive people on my timeline and they help me through gloomy days because, yes, I do have them, she said. Honestly, if I'm being totally and perfectly honest, I'm having one right now. And the
Mm.
reason I'm going live is sometimes you got to reach out and tell people that you need love, you need support, you need care. You just need a hug. And honestly, you guys, I needed that. I need that right now. Well, the interesting thing is like
Mm.
you can't. First of all, I mean, it's interesting because you can't get a hug on Facebook, right? Like
You get a they call it a virtual hug,
no,
but
no,
it don't
a
feel the
virtual, yeah,
same,
a
right?
virtual hug's not a real hug, and
Mm-hmm.
I can relate to that. Like you need a hug. I remember that people don't know this. I never talked about it, but I went on the tour back in I want to say 2016, where I went to a lot of cities and gave speeches, and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of people came out. And the thing is, this was pre-COVID, so you hugging and handshaking was not a bad thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I would meet people and they would be excited to me. I signed their book and they would hug me. They were always people always want to give you a hug, and I would hug them back. Really, I hugged every person that I saw because I wanted the hugs. I needed the
Were you
hugs.
being too much? People are like, "Ooh, Boyce is being real huggy
But you know
today."
what it was? You know what it was? I did not. I missed affection. I missed physical
Oh.
affection from other human beings because people don't know that tour started because I just ended a relationship. And I
You
missed her.
miss cuddles.
Yeah, I missed her, and I didn't want to run out on the road and start just getting involved in weird situations with women, but I did miss that affection. Like I liked the hug. So
Mm-hmm.
hugs have real therapeutic value, and people will be like, "Oh my God, Dr. Boyce, I'm so excited to meet you," and I'd be like, "You have no idea. I need you to. I need all of like I really appreciated the
Oh.
love so much." So I think that like I wonder when she says sometimes you need a hug. I'm wondering where did you go to get your hugs? I think everybody should have a hug supply,
Yeah.
and you should get high on your own supply, like and I believe, but I'm wondering like, did she have a church home that she
Oh,
could go to?
and by the way, Boyce gets plenty of hugs, so y'all don't have to hug him now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You
Now,
get you
now I'm
get
a
your
little bit.
hug
Well,
feels.
I still like my hugs from my people. I still like my hugs from my people, but I'm not hug
You
star.
don't need it.
Yeah, I'm not hug
It's just
star.
extra.
But you know what's interesting too is what I picked up on, and I'd like to get your thoughts on this as a therapist. The couple is like Keianna Burns and Ronnell. Keianna and Ronnell Burns. Um, you know, is what was the other point I was going? Oh gosh.
You talk about
Oh, I know
hugs.
this. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them, I know I think they ran a church, right? And I don't and I guess she maybe I'm
Something
guessing,
ministries.
yeah, I'm guessing perhaps he was a pastor and she was a first lady. And one of the things I have seen, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, is that sometimes when you are always the spiritual leader, or
Mm-hmm.
you're always the person people go to for spiritual support, that there's not really anybody for you to go to when you're drained. Like, that you're
Mm.
like pastors are among the most depressed people out here because everybody's dumping their stuff on them,
Yeah.
and there's nobody for them to dump on. And I actually would have a theory to say even therapists might feel that way too, because you're constantly taking in
Mm-hmm.
everybody's energy, negativity, and energy. And I didn't realize, like, until like I got married to you, I said, oh, I get it. I think the therapist needs a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And like the same way they say insurance companies have insurance companies that insure their insurance. Like, therapists need a therapist. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, everybody needs that nice support system that they can turn to, someone that can be, someone that they trust. You always need someone that you trust that you can turn to. And I got my group of people, and do you have your group of people? Well, I
Mm-hmm.
have you, of course. You're my turn to person. But you also need to have like your group that like I have my mom, I have you, I have close friends, that I designated people that I can turn to when I'm really worried. I don't turn to Facebook and social media when I'm having an issue, though. That's the thing. Like, I turn to real people who know me and I know them and I know I can trust them, where I can get real hugs from people. So I think that it just speaks to all of those studies, those endless studies that come out that say, heavy dependence and use of social media is directly related to mental health in a way where it's not a positive relationship. So the more you're on social media, the more mental health issues you tend to have. So the less happy you are, the more that you're on social media. And so that's always something for all of us, always something to think about. When you wake up in the morning, are you grabbing your phone? Is that the first thing you grab? Or are you turning to your partner who's in
Mm.
bed with you?
I sometimes I grab my phone, but then I
Yeah,
turn to
but
my
think
partner.
about that though.
Well, I
Why
feel
would you do that?
well, I feel like I have the best of both worlds. I feel like I have,
Yeah, but the
well, and
first thing you
also
do.
remember. Well, it's ain't always the first thing, but the thing is, the first thing I do is I squeeze you. But but in all
You
seriousness,
do.
though,
You do.
I think that I've always found that the best of both worlds works. Like for me, I enjoy the people around me, but then also I enjoy the people I meet online because
Mm-hmm.
I'm a cerebral person. I'm a thinker, so
Mm-hmm.
I like to get to know your brain before I get to know anything else about you. And on social media, it doesn't matter how good somebody looks. If they stupid, you're gonna see it because you're gonna read their grammar, or you'll see that hear something that they have to say, and you'll be like, "That was a dumb idea," or they'll tweet something. All you got is the tweet, and the tweet it tells me if you're smart or you're not
I
smart.
don't know. I think that things get lost in translation. Like sometimes you put like one thing, one post, and you could be coming from one direction and someone else will totally misinterpret it. And you have
That's true.
really good people battling each other on social media. I think to me what was great was being at the convention and just seeing actual
Mm,
individuals
yeah.
like that. There's no substitute for that, of course. But of course your clique, your bubble, the
Mm.
bubble of people who are in there. I mean, there's definitely no substitute for that,
Yeah, that
but
is so true.
real human beings, that's where it's at.
I like human beans,
Human
jelly
beings.
beans,
Yep.
pinto beans. Yeah. By the way,
Black
hit
eyed.
the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe button. And by the way, if you have any questions about your own relationship, Alicia is very qualified in the area, and we'd love to give you our 2 cents on this. So feel free to go to askdralicia.com. You can leave the
Hmm.
question there, and we'll both answer it.
Or you
Um,
can go on to coaching with Dr. Alicia, and
mm,
go to your prayer room. But you can also turn to me. Not even just me, but there's other people out there that can do it,
oh yeah,
that can help you.
absolutely,
But I
absolutely.
do my best, and I do work with I've worked with influential people, very prominent people in their communities where they didn't have anyone to turn to but me, of course.
Right.
Yeah.
So let me just
Mm.
kind of move the conversation forward on one
Okay.
thing, on one issue. So
Mm.
she shot him and then killed herself.
Yeah.
And the first thing I remember I noticed people saying is, "Oh, he must have cheated. He must have cheated."
He may
Um
have.
and here's the problem. I've been cheated on before, and there was never it never would have been acceptable for me to shoot somebody and kill myself. Right? Like, and I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to prison cuz you decide to cheat. I'm just not.
Let me tell
You
you
know.
something. Let me
Mhm.
tell you something.
But
I ain't gonna you ain't gonna get no drama out of me. Listen, if
Hmm.
you want it to be over, you don't have to kill me. I will leave, and it will be drama free. It will be cordial.
Right,
There is no
right.
need to end it like this.
Right. So
Okay.
yeah,
Just letting you
I
know.
agree. I agree. I mean, and that's the thing. I think the best thought I would share, just this is Uncle Boyce talking, not even Dr. Boyce. Uncle Boyce would say to anybody out here, if you're in a relationship that drives you to the point where you have to engage in any form of physical retaliation with another person, my best advice is that movie, Jordan Peele movie, Get Out. Get out. You need to get out. Like walk out that door, pack your shit, don't ever turn back. Do
Mm-hmm.
not pass go. Do not collect $200. Do not. You can even like not even come back to pick up your socks. Like literally, you like seriously. I'm serious about this because sometimes relationships that'll drive. If you're in a relationship that drives you crazy for whatever reason, I don't think we have to necessarily always assess blame because nobody knows exactly what was happening in this relationship, but when you get to the point where you're in a bad relationship, it can drive you crazy. It can make you do things that are out of your character. And then have you looking stupid. Next thing you know, police at your door. Your neighbors are looking at you crazy. Like, what's wrong with them?
It's
You are
embarrassing, right?
Yeah, it's embarrassing. You up in court and you're like, damn, I'm an accountant. I'm not supposed to be. This is not my life. I don't know if anybody's ever felt that way, where you're in a situation where you're like, this is not my life. And so I learned that lesson in my 20s when I had a crazy relationship with a lady that liked to get kind of like batty about stuff. I swore to myself. I said, if you ever get batty with me, I'm gonna turn around and walk out the door. So because physical violence has no place in a relationship ever.
Well, the mentality of some people is like, if I can't have you, nobody else can have you, and then
Yeah,
that'll drive them to do some really
right. Which,
crazy things.
and again, I think if you identify that in yourself, take your ass to a therapist. You need
Well, I
psychiatric
think
help.
I think this lady needed to be hospitalized. Clearly,
Hmm.
she that look in her face, that picture with her eyes, she looked kind of little starry right there in the eyes. And they also, I didn't you didn't get to that part of the article, but they saw her when she was dancing with her daughters, right, like days before she did
Mm,
that, and she was just dancing around and having a really good time on social media. If anything, that is a signal. That's a signal
yeah.
that you have decided you're done with it. I'm gonna end it
It
for myself.
it did. Well, oh,
Because usually,
interesting.
because what hurts is trying to figure out the pain you're going through. That's when you get hurt in tears and it doesn't make sense to you. But once you realize that you're going to end your life, and once you make
Mm,
that decision, it's just you become really happy. Believe it or
wow.
not, people tend to be very happy right before they kill themselves.
And you would know that. Now, let me just say this. Alicia's not just saying this as a regular person. She's actually an expert on suicide. And actually, if y'all remember 2017, when she and I went to go live in Guyana for a semester, she was brought to Guyana on a Fulbright scholarship as a faculty member to help them deal with their suicide problem. She
Hmm.
Guyana's had a suicide issue since Jim Jones, right?
If you ask them, they don't think that it's at all related to Jim Jones issue, but they have one of the highest suicide rates, I think, in the world, per
Yeah,
per
well,
capita, of course.
and it's not a coincidence that 40 years ago, 50 years ago, Jim
Oh, it's
Jones
40 years.
took a bunch of people down to Guyana and they all drank the poison Kool-Aid. So it is interesting. Like, do you think there's a connection?
Probably on a subconscious level, there's a connection, but there's very real problems happening in Guyana right now.
Yeah, yeah.
There's very real
A lot
issues.
of struggle.
But yeah, I mean, so you get really excited and happy because it's the relief. I've now solved my own problem. I'm off of this world. I'm moving
Mm,
on. I'm going on to be with God, and I'm off of this world,
oh,
and now I feel good.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
I think, but I would also say if she was dancing with her kids right before
Hmm.
the question I asked, here's the question I asked myself, and nobody will know this in my view, except Keianna and Ronnell. Was it planned for you to pull out the gun, shoot him, and shoot yourself?
She
Like,
may
was
have
it
planned
was
it.
it a premeditated murder suicide, or was it something that happened in the moment? And if it happened in the moment, what drove that moment? So the only thing that, in my view, that could justify,
Hmm.
her killing him and whatever would be is if he was trying to really harm her, and that's
Oh,
why.
you think it was
Well,
self-defense or
I don't
something?
know. I don't think it
If
was
it
any.
was self-defense, she
Well,
wouldn't have killed
that's
herself.
the thing. I don't think it was anything because I don't know. But you do know he was on divorce court years ago. They did mention
We
that.
saw part of it, by the way.
He was on divorce court and he did have an ex-wife who did accuse him of abuse, right? So now I'm not saying this is what happened here,
Hmm.
but I am here to say that I listened to the testimony, I listened to her, I listened to her friend give the explain the situation. It's not out of the question, right? So that to me, abuse, physical abuse, like him physically harming her in a way where she felt she couldn't get out. I can see where that leads to somebody pulling a gun on somebody, like back up,
Hmm.
mother. You move
Yeah,
closer
but
to me.
you can always call 911. You can always escape. You can always shoot them. It seemed like there's something else there if she wanted to kill
Mm,
herself. Like
yeah.
maybe, I mean, she
Like maybe she
definitely
felt like,
was
oh, I'm in
unstable.
trouble. My life is over now because I've done this.
How am I
Like,
gonna face all these people? I have a ministry. She had a hair salon. How am I gonna face all these people knowing that I killed my husband and our marriage? It seemed like our marriage and our relationship isn't what all it was cracked up to be.
mm, that.
Maybe that's what was
So
going on.
do you think that and I wonder if sometimes if they felt like with these public couples, you've put out an image of
Yeah.
your relationship, and people will think that that relationship is perfect, and then maybe when it's not perfect, you end up feeling like Will and Jada, when they started kind of having to be honest about what was going on with them.
Hmm.
And it's like, and I really even think, even if you look at, us, like we are a public couple, Alicia, but we're not.
That's hard for me to digest
Right, we
sometimes.
are a public couple, but we're not a perfect couple, right? And I think
No.
that is
Wait,
something.
what picture did you snag?
That's a picture from the All Black National Convention.
Okay. All
Is
right.
that okay? Can I share that picture, babe?
Yeah, I'd like to see. Here we go. I'd
I
like
know
for you to show me what
all
picture you're gonna
pictures must be
post.
approved in advance.
Yeah, it should be.
Well, anyway, but and
Your judgment of photos.
I personally would like to declare just clearly, like we're not a perfect couple, nobody is, and
Hmm.
it takes, marriage and all that stuff. It takes a lot of work, and it's worth it. I think if you think of it in terms of structure and legacy and possibility. Like I did explain that, having a spouse makes it easier, a good spouse
Hmm.
that is supportive and, they can bring something to the table, whatever that is, emotional, physical, financial, whatever. It makes it easier to get things done.
Really? Do I make things easier to get things done for you,
Yeah, yeah.
Quince?
Like
I do?
whenever we're trying to get something to accomplish something, it's like it's good. It is good to have a teammate. So but I had to pick the right kind of teammate, right? Like I
Oh.
always said, I want to marry a Delta, not an AKA. But then again,
What?
I'm being silly. You're not a
Don't
Delta.
do that.
You're not a
Deltas are
well, you're
awesome.
not a Delta or an AK. But you
No.
no. But the stereotype that I gained when I was in college, just from the Deltas and AKs I knew was the AKs I knew on my campus. Not speaking for all of them, of course.
Yeah, don't do
The
that.
AKs I knew were the types where they would date you and marry you if they thought you had a lot of money or status. But if you lose your money and status, they're gonna leave you and pick somebody better. The Deltas were the ones who would go to war with you. Like those are the ones who would
That's not
get down and
fair.
dirty in the trenches. So I always say, I'm not kidding. I used to say, I want to marry a Delta
Have
type
you ever
woman,
have you ever
not an
dated
AK.
a Delta? You've never dated a
Yes, I have.
Delta.
I did. I kid you not. In real life,
Who?
I'm
You have
not
to
gonna.
tell
I'm
me
not
one
gonna tell
day.
you who. Wouldn't it? I mean, it'll be
Well, tell
secret.
me when we get off of here.
But I dated a Delta a long time ago, and I have dated an AKA, and unfortunately, both of them actually fit the stereotype. But it does
They
not.
really?
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that AKs can't be wonderful. Well, my sister's an AK. How dare I diss AKs?
Yeah,
My
don't
sister
diss
and
them.
my daughter are AKs. So shout out to the AKs. But seriously, like I wanted a teammate. That's the point. I wanted a partner. Like I like the idea that I have like a tough black woman, not too tough, right? You're still soft and everything, but like tough enough where it's like, okay, how we gonna solve this together? How we gonna figure this out? And also, I'm a tough man, so if it comes down to something like, okay, I gotta get to work at 9, but the kids have to be dropped off at 8:30, or whatever, and so needs to get to dance class, I'll be like, okay, let me get that done for you. And I think that when you compare that to trying to solve those problems as a single parent, it becomes like the single parent equation is a hard equation to solve. It's like the unsolvable
You
math
have
problem.
you have to have supports. I mean, I know a lot of um single parents who have a lot of people who come around them and say, "Here, I'm going to support you here." You have the mom, you have cousins, you have the dad, you have all these people who support them
Yeah,
too.
sometimes,
I'm just telling you
but
what I
sometimes
know.
you have nothing, or sometimes you just broke. I know.
Sometimes you got nothing and you got a husband sitting right there.
Right. And that's what I mean. That's why I say again.
So it's a
But
teammate.
that's the condition. As long your partner has to be able to actually help you. It has to be somebody to elevate you, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's very important. But anyway, okay. So here's the thing, right? So with this couple, and by the way, everybody who just came in, we this is Pillow Talk with Dr. Boyce and Dr. Alicia Watkins. We were talking today. We began the conversation talking about Ronnell and Keianna. What's their last name again? We have to get that.
Burns.
Burns, the Burns
Mm-hmm.
couple, the Burns family, and Keianna apparently had a murder suicide situation with her husband Ronnell, where Ronnell and Keianna are both dead. R.I.P. to both of them. It ended sadly, and I really feel bad for their 8 children. They
Eight
have eight
children.
children, yeah, and I kind of honestly, I'm gonna be honest, I really, you know, I put it this way, I never understood. I had a friend who had a murder suicide situation. Her husband killed her and killed himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not understand the mindset of a person who could do something like that when they have children.
Uh-huh.
When the children are going to be the ones that have to pick up the pieces and spend and live their life just kind of knowing this is how things ended with my parents. And it makes me really want to appeal to anybody going through a tough situation to say, look, there's help out there.
Mm-hmm.
There's a solution out there. It doesn't have to be the ultimate solution of death.
Mm-hmm.
you know like it's I almost feel like awareness. If you find yourself getting to that dark of a place where you really feel like it makes sense to pull out a gun and shoot somebody, like just maybe at least get a second opinion, because clearly your diagnosis of the situation is not the right one.
Mm-hmm. You're not thinking clear, obviously. And to again, to turn to Facebook, you can turn to the crisis hotline. I don't maybe we need to look up the crisis hotline number and pass that out. Like turn to like a real person, a professional individual who's trained, that can help you talk through it. I think that people who make those decisions, they feel like they don't have any other choice,
Mm,
because they're going through so much pain. It's a lot of pain and they'll do anything to relieve that pain. And so
mm.
sometimes, I don't see any way out but for me to be out.
Well, I also think this, and now I'm not saying this is what was going on with the Burns family at all,
Hmm.
but I warn young people about the dangers of alcohol and drugs, because it
We don't
seems
have
to
any
me.
evidence of that.
Right. No
Hmm.
evidence in this case at
Hmm.
all. None at all. So this is almost like a separate issue.
Hmm.
But seriously, if you are in a relationship, be very careful about trying to deal with somebody who uses alcohol and drugs a lot, because it just messes their brain up. A lot of us have relatives. I have relatives that well, you don't even know if you're talking to them, if you're talking to a high version of them, if they're high at
Because
the time.
they're in an altered state.
Right. And
Yeah.
they say crazy shit, and you're like, what wait, I'm trying to be logical with you. I don't think a person on drugs can be logical. And then if
Mhm.
y'all both on drugs, you ain't gonna have a logical outcome.
Oh, it's a mess.
It's gonna be a complete mess, right? So
I mean, look at Whitney and Bobby.
oh, that was
It was
crazy.
all recorded. Like,
That was crazy.
and I could not look away. So I hate that it's good TV because look how tragically, Whitney Houston ended, and her daughter, look how tragic that situation was.
Whitney died
And
from drugs.
the
The
daughter
daughter
and
died from drugs. That boy Nick, what's his face, died from drugs.
Nick who?
Nick, the Bobby Christine's boyfriend.
Oh gosh, yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, I mean, it's like,
It's
what the
pretty
hell,
bad. Yeah.
and it's just kind of like when you look at what drugs did to the black community. I just kind of think that we have to really assess our relationship with alcohol and drugs. Like, why is it still acceptable on any planet? Like, after you done see how much tragedy do you have to see? How many people do you have to lose? How much chaos has to occur in our community before we take a step back and say, we ain't messing with that stuff. The white man put that stuff in our community to make us unstable, to make sure our
Yeah.
families could not stay together.
And that was clearly an unstable situation for them both.
Yeah, and then you got,
Yeah.
now you got rappers promoting drug use, and and it makes me angry, but I'm not gonna
Mm-hmm.
shake my fist at the air,
Well,
but it
shake your fist in the air.
well, it just bothers me
Mm-hmm.
because when somebody gets you on drugs at an early age, they are ruining your life. When they get you popping mollies and using coke and heroin and all that at an early age, a lot of people are done for. Like they can't come back from that. So you're destroying your youth. You're destroying the community. You're killing their
Mm-hmm.
babies. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and like DMX, poor DMX started using drugs as a teenager, and he died as a very sad 50-year-old man who did not live even a fraction of the potential he could have lived. So I'm not a fan of the drugs. So I would just say anybody,
Mm-hmm.
if you are, if, whatever, if you listen to anything I say, don't mess with drugs and alcohol in general. And then if you are a person who doesn't mess with drugs and alcohol, do not have a relationship with a person who has a problem with drugs and alcohol, because it's not going to lead. It's not a fun
Yeah,
engagement at
but
all.
I do think that I'm gonna give something because you're making absolutes here, and I think there's a lot of gray area. I think that even if you are with somebody who's struggling with drugs and alcohol, having a real supportive spouse and having somebody there that can support you and help you through it can really help you in recovery.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that it's not it doesn't have to be a deal breaker if you're running across that. If you see somebody who's really willing and they're able to see that they have an issue, you can support them in ways that are very helpful. They can get some help,
Well, I'll say this.
and be a whole person again.
Here's how
Hmm.
understanding I would be if I met you and you were say on drugs. I would be understanding enough to say, "Are you going to go to rehab? I will pay for the rehab, and if you give me any resistance whatsoever, I'm gonna love you from a distance.
Hmm. Hmm.
If you're not willing to work on yourself, then I'm not gonna let you drag me through the mud with your
Hmm.
drug addicted ass."
But it's like that for every sort of addiction that people have. It's not just drug addiction. People have other types of addictions. And
Mm.
you support them and work with them on some of their
Yeah, but
addictions
some
too.
addictions are worse than others. I
That's
think,
true.
like I have a sugar addiction. I like my Twizzlers, and that's not a good thing. But
Yeah, because
it
we
ain't
were in the
it
middle of the night last night. We were
right.
going to the store.
I might make a store run in the middle of the night to get some Twizzlers, but I'm not gonna like punch you in the face because I'm on a Twizzler
Yeah.
binge.
Yeah. So some of the consequences are worse than others. So you're right. And I for sure wouldn't want any of my children syncing up with somebody with severe substance abuse issues. Yeah, but the thing is that are you using that sugar to cope with something going on with you? And not you, boys, but I'm saying is a
Hmm.
person
Oh,
using
absolutely,
their addiction to cope
absolutely.
with some difficult times that they've had, and they don't like what are their coping
Oh, that is so
mechanisms?
true. After I have a hard day at work, I'll be like, "Where the Twizzlers at? Show me the Twizzlers. Take me to the candy, the candy shop.
I thought you were gonna say, "Take me to the king, take me to the
Take
candy."
me to the king." Well, actually, speaking on this, that's really interesting. Is
Hmm.
a lot of people don't talk about it much, but even for some people, religion is an addiction. Like that's a coping mechanism to deal with.
I don't know if it's an addiction, but it can be a coping
No,
mechanism.
but I mean, well, I remember one time. Let me tell you, I remember one time I met a lady at Arby's. She was an Arby's worker, and she told me that she used to be on heroin, and she said, "But I got away from heroin." I said, "How'd you get away from heroin?" She said, "Because I found Jesus Christ." And
Okay.
every other sentence and out of her mouth was "Praise the Lord, thank you, Jesus." So I found Jesus, praise the Lord, and I go to church every Sunday, praise the Lord. And then when I
Yeah.
go to so I was listening to her speech pattern. I said, okay, she just found a new drug. She on the crack pipe of Jesus right now.
Okay.
Not
But
that going
that's
to church,
not.
not that going to church is bad. It's
Uh
not that it's
huh.
bad, but for some people, like
They need that. It helps to hold them together.
yeah,
I don't see anything wrong with that.
I don't think, but to me, again, some addictions are worse than others, right? So I don't know people who go to church, 3 times a week who are gonna like get on the drug binge and kill you, right? So you're right. If you have a harmless addiction, then I'm rooting for you. Whatever it takes for you to get through the day, God bless you. But I think when you talk about those hard drugs, the alcohol, and all that stuff
That's
makes people
awful for.
crazy.
Yeah, you're right, and it's awful for your body too. What
That
it
too.
does to your body, and what sugar does to your body, it's pretty
Well,
bad too.
it is,
It
but
is an
it ain't
addiction.
crack, but it is bad.
Yeah, so I'm sitting here thinking about the Burns family, and I think that somebody needs to be paying attention to those children. And
Mm.
because the one of the biggest predictor of a suicide is if your mama committed suicide.
Oh,
So I really think we need to
oh
start
no.
because it
I
is,
remember you telling me that. That's
yeah,
terrible.
it's genetic. Part of it is genetic. And part of it is really paying attention to what were things like between her and her kids, and probably that's all. Everybody, hopefully this family knows enough to know that
Oh,
these all of these children need help.
oh my goodness.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
is that I didn't think about that, but you're right. I
Yeah.
remember you telling me suicide was largely genetic,
Mhm.
and it's
Can be. They did that study with those Amish families, and they were
hmm
wondering, like, okay, why are all the, you do a genogram where you
right.
put all the families together in a little format, genogram format, and they're like, well, wait, this person commits suicide, this person's suicide. It was like it just ran through their family, and they did find a gene. There is a suicide gene. Did you
So
know
so
that?
there's a gene.
Yeah, there's a gene.
Okay, okay.
Hmm.
So
I
when
used to I used to have like the actual gene memorized, but I don't have it
can you
memorized.
get tested for the gene?
I don't know. I suppose you could. Someone could look and see if you have the gene. But just because you have the gene doesn't mean that's going to happen to you. It doesn't have to be expressed in you.
Okay, so
Yeah.
something that can activate the gene.
Yeah, so something needs to
Okay,
activate it. So it's
okay.
not the end of the world for you because you have this gene. You just need to be aware of it.
Mm, okay.
Prepare.
So, by the way, everybody, we are having a very sad pillow talk with Dr. Bush and Dr. Alicia today. It has to do with the unfortunate passing of Ronnell and Keianna Burns. Keianna and Ronnell had just moved to Atlanta, and apparently they were having some relationship problems. And next thing you know, they both end up dead. Where Keianna shot Ronnell and then shot herself. And there's a lot of questions. Nobody knows the answers to all the questions. We do know that they had 8 children, and there's an image there of Ronell with his kids. They blurred the face of the kids out for obvious reasons,
Yeah.
and it's a concern. So, by the way, do us a favor, everybody. Please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. Also, my wife, Dr. Alicia Watkins, is a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work. And she actually sees couples. And so, if you want to know what she does, or you want to follow her on Instagram, you can go to Coaching with Dr. Alicia on Instagram, or coachingwithdralicia.com to learn more about the work that she does. So let me just read a little bit about Ronell and Keianna. I think that maybe just memorializing them in an appropriate way might be the best way to go. And so they said, who is Ronnell Burns? This is from thesun.com. They said he's the leader and coach at Six Figure Ambition, an online program for entrepreneurs. He has 7,000 followers on Instagram, and his bio reads, you don't have to be great to start, but you do have to start to be great. He has a YouTube account with nearly 2,000 subscribers where he posts educational videos. Ronnell speaks at many business events and sheds inspiration and education on his Atlanta-based community. Who is Keianna Burns? Keianna Burns is an insurance agent and owner of Critique Designs Beauty and Barber. She has almost 14,000 followers on Instagram, and most of her posts are about family. She also posts inspirational quotes and preaches motivation to her followers. Let's see. Do they have children? The couple have 3 children. Well, they said 8.
Well, I think they have other children with
Okay.
from other people. Maybe they have three together. I don't know. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Keianna posted Instagram August 9th, 2021. She wrote, "My baby's first day of school in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm excited like it's my first day." And they
Oh.
have the names of the kids in the article. I'm not going to read the names of the
Wait, it's a
kids.
seventh grader and a 10th grader.
Yeah, yeah, but I don't want to say their
You
names.
don't have to say their names, but gosh, what I mean, those are the years when you really need your mother.
Yeah, that's a horrible time to.
Terrible.
But it's never a good time to lose your mom, right, or your
Yeah.
father, right? That's never a good time. But I mean, I agree. Some
Jeez,
times are
those
worse than
girls
others.
are. Mm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and and I will say this too. I'll jump out on a limb on this and say, a lot of people get out here and they want to be social media influencers and stuff, and I understand it. I have a lot of followers online and everything myself, and people know us, as a couple and everything. But I encourage everybody that's doing this kind of thing, like, don't take it too seriously. Like,
Yeah.
you get to the point where your shit's falling apart, your life is kind of in a complete mess. You got to close ranks and focus on that. you know. And I think sometimes when you get out there and you get seated a certain light, you feel like you always have to be the one holding it together for everybody else. But there's
Hmm.
times like you've got to have your space where you can just go and connect with the things that matter in your life. Like even myself, I mean, I have two YouTube channels with 300,000 or more subscribers, right? And so that's a lot of people. I meet a lot of people. There's a lot of energy passing around me all the time. And there's times where I have to go into a vacuum chamber. I have
Hmm.
to literally go in my room, turn the lights out, shut the door, turn off my phone, and I'm not connected with nothing and nobody. Because I got to recenter myself in the middle of the chaos and not get too carried away, and I'm not going to go down because I'm trying to hold up a facade for nobody. And I
Hmm.
think that's so that balance, whatever you're doing, is really important. I see a lot of people out here that want to be influencers and want to build followings and all that.
Hmm.
That stuff don't mean shit at the end of the day compared to
Hmm.
your well-being and your life and your peace.
Yeah, what you're saying is so important. And the reason why what you're saying is so important is because why would he get on divorce court? That tells you, like, if you're going through a divorce and you get on the show divorce court,
Mm-hmm.
that tells me that there's something isn't right in terms of like your decision making.
Well,
You want, like, if you want to be an influencer in that way, it's like the goal, like your goal is not to be an influencer, your goal is to put out this message, and then therefore you are an influencer. But for to
yeah,
be to put your marriage on divorce court, like that is
right.
that is something like the people who do that, I just wonder about, what are you really trying to get? What's your goal?
Well, it reminds me of that show that you love, Marriage at First Sight, where
Why would you get on that show?
right.
It's a great show, by the way.
And I
But
think, and you're right. Ronnell was on divorce court a few years ago, and I think it is important to understand. A lot of times people get on shows like that
what's
to get attention.
your personality? I just wonder. There's something in his personality where he just like, I need to have this see me,
Yeah.
see me sort of image.
Well, you do wonder about that, and I
Mhm.
think it would not be like necessarily fair for us to speculate on him,
Mhm.
after he just passed. But you have, but to keep it 100 and honest, I think that divorce court appearance, everything everything sends a signal, right?
Mhm.
Every action we commit to says something about what's going on internally. And so I think one, just the decision to go on a show like that does say something about the fact that you, for whatever reason, wanted your divorce to be public, for whatever reason, because you could easily not be on divorce court. And then two, we watched that show. We watched Judge Tolliver, kind of talk
Toller,
Toller,
Judge
Judge
Toller.
Toller. Yeah, Tolliver. I
Wait,
said Tyler Toller.
wait, anybody? I don't know if you've seen the meme.
Yeah.
Okay, I know you don't want to talk about the meme.
No, let's not talk.
Judge Toller. Period.
Judge
I
Toller,
had to say
period.
it anyway. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so shout out to Judge Toller. But
Mhm.
Judge Toller was, talking to Ronnell and his ex-wife.
Yeah.
And there was an allegation of abuse in that conversation. And a lot of just chaos. You
Lots
know,
of chaos. The
yeah.
mama come in and she's dramatically leaving the house,
And they
not
was
even telling him that she was leaving, moved all the
and
kids'
they were trying to
clothes.
they were trying to take the drapes.
Yeah, no one takes the
They tried to
drapes from
move
the
out when he
house.
wasn't home and took the drapes. And
Yeah,
he
that
and he said, "Who takes the drapes?"
yeah, no one you're not supposed to take the drapes. But it just that mentality, that's not
Mm.
not quite. It's very chaotic. So his household with the first wife for sure was very chaotic.
Well, now I'm
Mhm.
here. I'm seeing some comments in the chat
Mhm.
where people are making
What are they saying?
allegations about him. You know, uh, about infidelity,
Mhm.
but that special Atlanta version of infidelity, that DL type stuff. I'm not gonna even address that.
Oh, that is
Well,
interesting.
if
I can't
that's
read what's in the chat,
if
but
that's
that
out
is
there, that's out there. But
fascinating.
I'm not one. I'm not gonna talk about something I don't know.
Mm,
Like I don't.
well, you talked about drugs. We know drugs and
Well,
alcohol had
well,
nothing to do with it.
well, I did.
We're just entertaining all explanations.
Well,
That could be an explanation. We
well, I
don't
mean,
know.
it is Atlanta. You know.
Okay.
Well, let me tell you a really crazy story about Atlanta.
Yeah, tell me a crazy story about Atlanta. I want to hear
All
it.
right, my friend went to Clark, Atlanta, and she told me she had a friend who was sleeping with some guy, and she had an infection in her Yahoo.
STD. She had an
Yeah.
STD.
So
Okay.
she went to the doctor, and the doctor said, you have feces in your vagina. And apparently it was because her boyfriend was sleeping with a guy and then going over to her house, going to her dorm.
Oh,
And
that's so gross.
yeah, and so
So it
so
was unprotected. It wasn't like they were using any protection at all.
yeah, so I think at the very least it kind of says protection is kind of required anywhere, really.
Hmm.
But Atlanta does have a reputation for kind of having a lot of stuff going on. Now, at the same time, that does not mean that this is what he was doing,
Yeah, and we don't
right?
know if he was doing drugs
Right,
and
and
alcohol
right, and
either.
we no, well, the drugs and
You
alcohol
know,
part, I brought that up and it made it clear that there's no evidence to say this is
right?
true in this case. I was throwing it
Hmm.
out there as a if this ever happens.
Yeah. So we're
it,
throwing this out there, like
well, how
if
so? What
this
if
ever
this ever
happened,
happens? What?
we're throwing it out there. Use protection, right?
Well, I think you should always use protection, but then again, if I guess you get married and stuff, you don't. So
Hey,
yeah,
I guess you get married, you don't have to use protection.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, yeah, but
You gotta trust the person you're with, though.
yeah, yeah. I
Mhm.
mean, there's a lot of crazy stuff out here in this world. Oof.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I would say at the end of the day, I think this whole scenario. I think that him going on divorce court. I think being on a show like that doesn't make you look good. It makes everybody look crazy.
Mhm.
And the story was crazy. It was, she was flirting with him, I guess, while he was in a relationship. Then they ended up getting together, and then chaos started happening. She's accusing him of credit, like using her
Mhm.
credit and
And
all
he
this stuff.
he was accusing her of cheating, right?
And he accused her of cheating,
And then
and
she said that he wouldn't let her leave the house or something. So maybe some domestic violence. Mm.
possibly, and her mother was all up in the whole situation. And this is just trauma.
That's
This is chaos. Like
it is chaos.
this is traumatic chaos that I don't know. I know white people have their issues too, but these are also things that don't seem natural to me. Like I
No.
don't think it's natural for the mother to be in there fighting with her daughter's husband like that. Like I feel like in a more traditional family, it would be like man to man. Like the father of the daughter would be the one confronting the husband, saying, "Why did you do this to my daughter?
Yeah.
If you put your hands on my daughter, that's not cool. We got a problem now." Like the idea that the mothers are having to take a aggressive masculine stance to protect their daughters.
I don't know if
I
it's a
don't think that's normal.
masculine. I'm not certain if it's masculine to protect your daughter as a mother, because moms, even in nature, are always known to protect their children.
That's true.
Everybody protects their children,
Good point.
but you're right. You are right in that, like, dang, her mom called in the forces and they teamed up and went over there, caravan over there to
Mm,
rescue her daughter.
sure
That
did.
was so dramatic. And
What?
then wait, this is so key. As soon as they get there, they'll be like, "It's okay, we're back together now." That's why you don't get caught up
Oh,
into people's marital
I
mess.
hate that shit. If I go to battle for you, I'm gonna do it one time. If you get back together, next time you're going to battle by yourself. But I do think it's funny.
Oh,
I do think it's funny how women will form those caravan rescue missions and show up in armored vehicles, ready to just take everything down. But do you know that actually a study showed that actually even with like rats in the lab, that the grandmothers fight harder to protect the babies than the mothers do, because literally they said in biology the mother is like, if somebody's taking like, let's say the experimenter tries to take the baby out of the cage, the mothers will fight a little, but not as hard as the grandmothers, because they said the mothers are like, well, I can just have another baby. Like they don't think this consciously, but because they can reproduce, they
uh-huh.
can just replace the child. The
Ah,
grandmother can't. If I'm not mistaken, that's what so they said the grandmothers were the ones who fought harder than the mothers to protect the babies.
look at that.
Yeah,
So that's what happens. They're
that's why
protecting their baby.
grandma being there with it,
Grandma.
like locked and loaded, looking like Kyle Rittenhouse, ready to take everybody out.
Oh my God. Okay, it's funny, but it's no joke.
It's
It's
funny,
no joke
but you
what's
know what?
going
It's
on.
it's sad, right? And
Yeah.
I think it's a Sunday morning, and it's okay for us to laugh. I hope
Hmm.
it's okay for us to laugh. Let me
It's
know.
no joking matter what we're talking about.
Yeah, I think it's okay for us to laugh.
Hmm.
Because as much as we have a sympathy and heart that goes out to this couple, I want everybody to have a good Sunday morning. I don't want to mess up your day and bring you down. And I want to encourage you to just make good choices. Remember that when you're having struggles in relationships, the best advice I would give anybody is when you're going through it, get some help. Get some help. There are people out there that have answers to your situation. There are people that have
Hmm.
ideas that can help you figure it out. Don't try to feel like you got to do it all by yourself. I think that's the biggest
Mm.
thing. Get help, read a book, watch YouTube videos, talk to a therapist. There's all these black therapists out here. Black therapists should be the most popular people on Instagram.
We should be, but we're
Yes.
not.
Right, they're not. They're not right. People will listen to
Oh
that
my
people will
God.
get their relationship advice from people who are clearly mentally ill.
Yes, they
Right,
will.
literally, like, and think about it. You're attracted to it for the same reason you're attracted to the food that's going to kill you the fastest.
Yeah.
You're attracted to unhealthy, mentally unhealthy people online, the
Hmm.
same way you love to eat Popeye's chicken when you know your chubby ass need to be down at the health food store,
So the
right?
Black Love channel needs to be the most popular channel
Well,
out
you
there,
know what?
but it's not.
Maybe our channel doesn't need. It's. I mean, we do have the Black Love channel, right? There's a URL, but you don't even have to come to us. Like, get
There's a
some.
bunch of people.
Get
Yeah.
your spiritual food from a healthy source. Just like you should
Hmm.
get your physical food from a healthy source. You should get your spiritual food from a healthy source. You should get your advice from a healthy source.
And not don't get advice from someone who's going to take your story and exploit it
Or
for views
people that
and
are just gonna,
trash talk you.
or maybe
You
people
know.
that are, or just don't be careful about people that would just tell you what you want to hear. Like,
Hmm.
it's like unhealthy food. I compare it to unhealthy food because when they give you unhealthy food with toxins in it and all sorts of stuff, what they're doing is they're giving you something that you want to taste. They're like, we're gonna make it taste exactly the way you want, even if we got to put lead poison in this shit. Right? So there's a price that's going to have to be paid because you're taking in unhealthy food. Well, the same thing is true when you get your advice. There are people out here online that are very popular who will give you so-called advice that is exactly what you want to hear, and you keep coming back because you're like,
Hmm.
thank you for validating all my
And
mental illness
never challenging you, never. Yeah, or I don't know, validating your mental illness, but
or
just
validating your dysfunction.
not putting up a proper mirror to you in what you're doing in a way that's compassionate. You
Mm.
do need to have compassion for I have compassion for all my clients. I have compassion for everybody who's struggling and who's suffering. And that's who you need to turn to, someone that can also, hold you accountable, but have compassion and understanding for you.
Yeah, or just
Yeah.
somebody that's just going to help you.
Yeah.
That's it. So
Yeah.
maybe they're
and,
gonna,
and that's
maybe it'll challenge you. Like, I really just think at the end of the day, it's like you have to be stretched to grow in a positive way.
Mhm.
Like, if you're not being stretched to grow, like if somebody,
Mhm.
like, for example, if I complain about women and I talk to another man and I say, man, my wife is driving me crazy. This is really bothering me. And all he does is he says, yeah, those women ain't shit. Yeah, you're right. They all messed up. That doesn't help me. That does not help me at all. But a good man is a guy who says, yeah, I totally get your frustration. I understand, but here's some things that you can try. Here's some, maybe there's some issues that you can work through that are going to make you better, right?
Mhm.
Because it always takes two to tango. You ain't never tangoing by yourself.
Mhm.
You are the most consistent member of every relationship you ever have. So everything, damn near everything, traces back to you, including who you choose to let into your life.
Of course.
So, do you have any final thoughts, babe, before we bounce out?
Yeah, I mean, I think we ended with a great final thought. The final thought is have a support system there for you, and if sometimes you need professional help, and so if you are someone's support system and you see that they're kind of, it's kind of, there's some deep seated mental health issues, it is important to get help. I mean, there's help out there, and what's so interesting is that treatment is about 95% effective. Like,
Mm.
if you can get good treatment and you can seek good help, it actually works. It can work for you.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I
Yeah.
didn't start really getting involved with therapeutic stuff until you and I started dating,
Hmm.
and it's really helped me a lot in terms of understanding things and just what it is it gave me like a new extra Swiss Army knife of tools that can be used, in a lot of situations, and because we're constantly managing relationships. We're managing a relationship with ourselves. We're managing our romantic relationships, our friendships, our family members. For me being public, I have to manage my relationship with all the people that come into my space. And it's, so that's where things like tools like, shaping proper boundaries, the ability to repair, empathy, the four horsemen,
Empathy is so
criticism,
important.
contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling, like just knowing all these little tips like that you have taught me that I've learned from you and other people in your space. They're beneficial tips. Sometimes I'll be like, sometimes I don't want to use it, but at least I know. But at least I know it's available
Why
if I
would you
want
not
to use
want
it.
to use it, boy?
Sometimes I don't feel like doing it. For the same reason you might sit down and eat Popeye's chicken knowing that you should be eating at the health food store.
Well,
Sometimes you just want some damn chicken.
okay, so and then now we're getting off into a whole nother conversation. But in those moments, you can make, just tune into how you're feeling in those moments that you're making mistakes, errors. Like, I'm
Mm,
going to consciously make this mistake, or am I going to try to figure out what's really happening with me right now? What am I
good point.
thinking about? How am I feeling? That's when you need to tune into yourself.
Mm. Tune into yourself.
Tune into yourself
There we
before you
go.
make those mistakes.
There we go. Yeah, so tune into yourself. That
Yeah.
would be a great.
Those are moments you can grow,
That's a
boys.
great point to move on to. So, all right, self love. It's self love. I think self love is
Yeah.
important too. So everybody type self love in the chat. If you love yourself and you want to love yourself more, and you're committed to walking out of here, loving yourself more, loving yourself by loving others better, type the word self love in the chat. Everybody type self love in the chat so we can walk out of here with a good energy. So self love, that's our phrase for today. Self love means working on yourself so you can be better for other people and for
Hmm.
yourself. There we go. It all starts with self. All right, everybody. So hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you haven't done it yet. If you want to learn more about what Alicia does, she does see couples. And she's a licensed therapist and a full professor of social work, and also a Fulbright scholar. So I'm super proud
I
of you.
am a Fulbright scholar.
Yes, you're just a
That's what's
badass black
up.
woman. Feel free to go check her out. Her website is coachingwithdralicia.com. And also, you can follow her on Instagram at Coaching with Dr. Alicia. And of course, you guys know me. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. And if you could hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button before you head out and out of here, well, I really appreciate that. And we love you. Have a great day, and we will see you soon. Take care.
Bye, everybody.